Five, four, three, two, one.
I'm from a place where the girls are always looking pretty. You might have heard of us, we call it Shy City. We build champions here who define gritty. We don't do excuses, we don't do pity. Rose is coming back stronger, that's a guarantee. Cutler's coming back too, he's beastly. Throwing it to Marshall, the title's ours easily. Blackhawks are winning titles, trophy looking massive. Don't forget about the Cubs, Sox, Crosstown Classic. With so much greatness, we gotta show bravado. You got your boys Ambro and Mike Mercado.
Hey everybody, welcome into this week's edition of the Chicago Beat. I am Mike Mercado, as always with my best friend, the secret producer man. It is February 15th, 2013 in the city of Chicago. It's great to be back with you guys. Don't forget, we're interactive everywhere in the universe. We're on Twitter at mmercado2333. We're on Facebook /MikeMercado2333. And now the new, improved, beautiful website, DaChicagoBeat2.com. So a lot of news to get into today. The Bulls recently struggling the last few games, injuries, a lot of Derrick Rose news to get into. Blackhawks staying undefeated, but having a rough time in overtime and in shootouts. And of course, you can never go a day without talking about the beloved the Bears and Brian Urlacher, whether or not he should be coming back this offseason. So we have a lot to get into today. Before we get into everything, I want to remind every one of you guys that please, since we've started this show, we have appreciated every single thing, every single fan, every single share, every single like that we have gotten. And now with the relaunch of the website, we really want to thank you guys for helping us keep us on track and making sure that we're doing the right things. So we promise you, because of all your great support, we're going to do our best to bring you the best show we can every single time we are on the air. Whether it's podcasts, whether it's articles, whether it's webcams, whatever it is that we have to do to show that we are serious and that we care about our fans that have gotten us to this point right now, that is what we're going to do. So we have so much to get into today on the highly acclaimed, award-winning, minus the award so far, the Chicago Beat. So last night I was watching Oklahoma City versus the Miami Heat on TNT. Really good game if you're a Miami Heat fan. It's amazing, if you ask me, watching the Bulls' recent struggles, who have lost 2 of the last 3 games, losing to San Antonio and Boston. You're seeing the difference in elite classes in the NBA. And me and Secret Producer Man were talking about this right before we got on the air, just the difference in the mentality that we've had in the last week. And of course, this stems off not just the recent struggles from the Bulls offensively. We've seen that all season. And we knew right now the Bulls have had their toughest part of their schedule. And of all things, it's come at a really bad time with a lot of injuries. But a lot of things now, a lot of the stories have been about Derrick Rose and whether or not he's coming back. Now, if you go on the website, DaChicagoBeat.com, you'll read a couple articles that we put up about Derrick Rose and whether or not he should return. And I'm just going to go in and give you a little bit of a tease, a little bit of what I believe that I wrote on the website. If you're Derrick Rose right now, let's say you're hanging out in the Bertle Center, you're warming up pre-games, you know what this Bulls team is doing. He's watched every single game. He works with these guys. This is his team. If you're Derrick Rose, do you really want to come back this season? And that's the question I've been posing to a lot of Bulls fans. The Bulls have overachieved this season. They have. Whether it's been Marco Bellinelli, Nate Robinson, even Carlos Boozer's having a really nice season. The Bulls have overachieved this season. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what teams do when their superstars out. They either flatter out and they fall to the bottom, or they overachieve and make some noise. But we've seen over the last 10 games with LeBron James that he has hit another level. As amazing as that may sound for somebody to talk about LeBron James, he has hit a different stride in his progression in the NBA. So with that in mind, you have the idea that, are you going to beat the Miami Heat right now? Okay? Is your team as good as last year's team or the year before that when you made to the conference finals? And do you trust Coach Tom Thibodeau in minutes? Now, I'm a big fan, a big supporter of Coach Tibbs. I think he's one of the top 5 coaches in the NBA right now. But we've seen with players like Luol Deng, Taj Gibson, Joakim Noah, with minutes, that they're going to play if they're able to. He's going to play them. Minutes is not an issue with Tibbs. He does not care. And then it goes back to something that I had a conversation with ESPN 1000's Jonathan Hood. What's more valuable to you? Wins in March and April or wins in June and May? And that's what Derrick Rose has to be thinking right now. He's 24 years old. $90 million from the Bulls. $200 million from Adidas. You have a 10-year span right now where you could be one of the more dominant players in the NBA. Are you rushing to come back? And to what are you coming back to? These are all questions that were coming up from the outside looking in. Imagine what his camp is thinking. And that's what I try explaining in my article on the website. What are you coming back to? And is it worth it? It's easy for us to always say players play. And I get the sentiment that if he does not play this season, it'd be 16 months since the injury that he's been on the NBA court. But in retrospect, in a 15-year career, is 16 months that long? And of all things, can we get better than Derrick Rose? We can't. Not right now. We need to add for him. And we're seeing it with the Miami Heat and the Oklahoma City Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs. It takes more than one person to win. And in the NBA, where the playoffs become a half-court game, you're then relying on a man who has not played in, let's say, 10 months when he comes back. All real concerns if you're a Bulls fan, if you're in the Derrick Rose camp, if you're in the front office of the Chicago Bulls. And the biggest, I hate to use the words victims, but the biggest victims in this whole thing are his teammates. Because every single day, the question is, how is Derrick doing? And in a season where everything has been based off when Derrick gets back, it will be a heartbreaker to find out he won't be playing the season. And it sounds like he won't. You're hearing it in quotes that he gave USA Today. I'm at 80%, but I'm not coming back to 110%. And then when he talks to the local media, if it's lingering, what's the point? There is no point. He wants to play. I think we can all sit here after watching Derrick over the last, 8 years in this city, for God's sakes. He wants to play. He's a competitor. But you can't blame the kid. You can't. And my biggest fear is that he is going to get hated on a lot. And I don't think that's right. And it's all because of Adrian Peterson's injury. Adrian Peterson is a freak of nature, okay? Everybody's knee is different. I could sprain my ankle, for an example, and be able to play a basketball game. There might be somebody who sprains the ankle the same way and just couldn't do it. Pain threshold is different. Ligaments are different. Everybody's body is different. And that's where it comes back to. We have to be patient. We have to. This isn't fantasy basketball. This isn't fantasy sports. This is a real man's life, a real man's career, and the hopes of a whole organization on that. So if the Bulls know, who the Bulls never guaranteed that he would be back this season, to give him credit, but if the Bulls know he's not coming back this season, why not rest up Joakim? Why not let Luol Deng have his surgery? Why not be ready to make a serious push next year when the Miami Heat are a year older, when Dwayne Wade is a year older? That's what I want to know. And that's what I'm putting out to you on Twitter, on Facebook, and on the website. I want you guys to tell me, should the Bulls play Derrick Rose this season? And while you're on the website, visit the Illinois Center for Broadcasting website. They're having open enrollments right now. Let me tell you guys something right now. I graduated from that school in 2011. Now I have 3 jobs in the business. 22 years old. This place is awesome with instructors who are in the field themselves. So if you're looking to, and you say to yourself every day, hey, Mike, I like what you do. How did you do it? Visit the Illinois Center for Broadcasting.com. Call them 630-916-1700. That's 630-916-1700 and set up a meeting today. When we come back on the Chicago Beat, the Chicago Blackhawks stay undefeated in regulation, but are we drinking too much of their Kool-Aid? Find out next on the Chicago Beat.
I have a dream of a scene between the green hills. Clouds pull away and the sunlight's revealed. People don't talk about keeping
All-Star Weekend coming up this weekend for all you Bulls fans. Luol Deng, Joakim Noah representing the city of Chicago. And if you want to sit down and enjoy the festivities Friday through Sunday, and you have a big business deal you have to make, you need to send something out, visit inflightexpress.com. They're the best place to get all your shipping needs done fast and easy. You got pallets of food, pallets of automotives. You need it done. These are your guys. Speaking of all-stars, Chicago Blackhawks remain undefeated in regulation. I bring up, if you were listening to the show earlier, I brought up a tease if we're drinking too much of their Kool-Aid. Easy, I get it. They're the best team in the Western Conference, at least right now. Possibly in the NHL. Possibly Patrick Kane is the heart favorite right now for the MVP of the league. But 1-3 in shootouts in a league that seems, or at least in a season that seems there's going to have a lot of shootouts in it, that's kind of scary. And the fact that the only guarantee we have on the shootout is Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews, who have both somewhat struggled anyway, although they are the only two who have scored shootout goals this season. It's something to really think about. Because you're seeing, they haven't used Marian Hossa, they've used Saad, they've used Shaw, they've used everybody, and have not been able to figure it out. The only time they've won a shootout is in Calgary. But you look at some of the teams that they lost in shootouts to, those are other playoff teams. And that's a bad sign. Now, why do I bring this up? Earlier on today, at the Illinois Center for Broadcasting, our beautiful studios, me and a coworker got into it about, do the Blackhawks need to make any moves? Of course, the move that everybody wants to make is to get a better goalkeeper. I get it. You don't trust Crawford. Crawford can win 2 Stanley Cups in this city, and I still think people will have second guess about it. Other than quarterback, goalie is the most important position in sports, my opinion. What you have seen on this team is, for as well as they've played, there's still a lot that needs to get done. They're still not the most physical team on the ice. What you've seen is they're the most athletic, the fastest team. They're not physical. And in the playoffs, that changes because you're talking about 7-game series. That's something to look into. Defense and power play kills, phenomenal. Need to keep that up. Can they maintain that through a Stanley Cup push? Second question. And finally, what are you going to do when you're on the power play? You need to score on power plays. Whether it's 5-on-4, 4-on-3, you need to score. And with that much talent on your team, there is no reason why you should be middle of the pack at 16. That is unacceptable. You need to be a top 10 power play and a top 10 power play kill. That's what you need to do if you want to win a Stanley Cup. They don't have a body that stays in front of the goalkeeper. They don't. They haven't had that since Bufflin. And that's what it all comes back down to, is a lot of people want to compare the 2013 Blackhawks to the 2010 Blackhawks team. That is not fair. Regardless of the hot start they've had, just last season, the Blackhawks were the best team halfway through the season in the NHL. And we saw what happened. We saw what happened when the season went on. They ended up losing, 8 of the next 9 last season? So it's a lot to think about when you get off the high of how good they've been playing. They've been playing phenomenal. And it's awesome that they're on TV so much because of the lockout. But let's tone it down a little bit. Let's bring it back a little bit. This team has a lot to prove. And I think that's the best thing that you've heard from this team, is that they know they have a lot to prove. They know that they need to maintain this. You're hearing it from quotes from Quenneville, who's always upset. And maybe that's just a coach media thing that they don't give us anything. But that is something to really interpret and think about, is as well as the Blackhawks have been playing, can they play better? And to me, yes, they can. And that is a good thing. That is not a bad thing. That is not a slight on the Blackhawks. I'm getting heat on Twitter at mmercado2333 and at DaChicagoBeat.com, the show's website. I'm getting heat for that, saying that I'm not buying into the Blackhawks all the way. We're 1 quarter through a season. And not just that, we're 1 through a quarter of a season that's been shortened. So this team still has to go through injuries. The NHL and the NFL, 2 things are guaranteed, and that's injuries. You can say that about sports. On top of the fact that they're not the most physical team in the world. On top of the fact that they have a hard time putting the puck in the net for a power play. Do I still think that they're going to make a serious run in the Stanley Cup? Absolutely. But right now, the way fans are speaking, they need to win the whole thing. And in the NHL, just like in the NFL, to me, the hardest trophy, the hardest championship to win is Lord Stanley Cup. But nonetheless, they've been playing awesome. And they played tonight against the heated San Jose Sharks, who are actually struggling since the last time the Blackhawks beat them down 5-3. If you look at the Sharks, they've been on a tailspin. So hopefully it's a good wake up that they're back playing a team that they actually have hatred towards, if you ask me, because that focuses them down. This team is at home. They have played only 3 home games now this season, and they've played 10 games on the road. That's something else to be very excited about. If they could start winning at home, this team is going to make some serious, awesome noise. Coming up next on the Chicago Beat, He's been a fan favorite since I was a kid. Since I've been watching the Bears, there's always been one guarantee. That 54, the captain, the man, was going to be in the middle of the field. But will he be this season? That's next on the Chicago Beat. Don't forget to visit the Illinois Center for Broadcasting website if you're interested in a awesome, fun, every day is different career in the field of broadcasting. Guys, let me tell you something right now. To this day, the biggest, best thing I've ever done in my life was picking up the phone and dialing 630-916-1700 and getting a tour for this awesome school in Lombard. If you're in the city, we have a campus down in Chicago. Check it out, guys. This is a field that's just booming in broadcasting. So if you love sports, you love music, you love pop culture, call 630-916-1700 or visit the Illinois Center for Broadcasting.com. So during the break, me and Secret Producer Man, we're talking about some of the better athletes who stood too long in their leagues or in their city. Names like Scottie Pippen came up when he came back from Portland and Houston. Brett Favre with the Vikings and the Jets. When is too much too much? Or how long? When is too long too long? It's basically what we're getting into. And this all stems off from Mark Trestman, new Bears head coach, finally having a day with his assistants and his fellow coaches on his new staff for the Chicago Bears. We're talking to yesterday's media. And the question, of course, came up, what's Brian Urlacher's future? Of course, they weren't going to give us anything. They never do. Right now, he's an unrestricted free agent. But it comes back to change that Chicagoans don't like. And we've drilled this before so many times on this show, that Chicago loves its sports and it loves its athletes to a fault. And that's what happens with Brian Urlacher. Would you rather see Brian Urlacher or remember Brian Urlacher as the beast, the captain of the defense, the monsters of the midway captain? Or do you want to see him struggling when he comes back? Now, if you look at Brian Urlacher last season, there were moments where he looked like the all-pro linebacker. And there were times where you just saw the age on those legs. Just couldn't go down the sideline, couldn't go across the field, couldn't do what he normally does. He did have an interception return for a touchdown. And, of course, he means so much more to his team as a leader, just as much as he does as a player. So it comes back. So let's break this down even a little bit more. It's the same argument with Jay Cutler. A lot of people don't like Jay. They think he has an attitude. I get all that. But what you have or what you could replace him with, is it better? I'm under the belief that if you have somebody who's better off right now than Urlacher, or you can bring somebody in, then you don't need to re-sign him. Look, I always remember Brian Urlacher as my favorite Bear. Number 54 made that number famous. But change has to happen. And this is a new regime. And you're not seeing a lot of Lovey's and Jerry Angelo's team anymore. There's a lot of people leaving. Israel Donahue, Henry Milton, Devin Hester. There's a lot of guys on this team that we're not going to recognize or that we're going to miss. But that's the NFL. Baltimore, who just won the Super Bowl, is going through the same problems with Ed Reed and with with Joe Flacco, and Kruger. There's a lot of players. The NFL is a revolving door. Players come, players go. Now, it will be a change. And I think already you're seeing that in the Bears, that the mentality has changed. But if you're asking me as a fan, do you want to see Brian Urlacher in a Bears uniform? Of course. I don't want to see him in any other uniform. But he will be. If you're asking me right now what the Bears do, unless we see it obvious that they're going to go after a free agent linebacker or draft one, which I think is a mistake, because you need to fix that offensive line. You almost have no choice but to bring Urlacher back. Because if you let him go for a reasonable price, that's another hole you have to fill. And fill fast in this league. Because they've already said in the 4-3 defense, they're going to play that. Going to keep some of the same terminology. You need somebody who could relate the message and who knows how to play that system. Who has an eye for the quarterback. And that's what Brian Urlacher was never like Ray Lewis. Will never blow anybody up like he did. But he could read a field. He could find the ball. He had an act for that. And in a team that has a lot of turnover, maybe it's not bad to have that kind of verbal leader in your locker room, on the field. But just like Derrick Rose, please be prepared that this coming up season, you might not see your favorite Bear on the team anymore. You might not be seeing a lot of your favorite Bears over the next 2 years. And I think that's the realization that us as Chicago fans have to finally bring back and realize that there's going to be a lot of turnover on our beloved Chicago Bears. But there's a lot to come this season. We haven't even reached April yet. But in the NFL, March is the beginning of free agency. We'll know come middle of March what the Chicago Bears have in mind. We wrap it up next here on the Chicago Beat. Hope everybody has a beautiful weekend coming up. Don't forget the All-Star break is going on. If you want to cheer on the 2 Chicago representatives from Joakim Noah and Lou Alden, congratulations, guys. Awesome news. Don't forget, we're going to start getting into baseball. Pitchers and catchers reported for both teams on the north side and the south side. As I said earlier, please, guys, you've been so great with us, whether it's been on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube. Visit the website, DaChicagoBeat.com. We relaunched it. It looks good. We have some cool pictures of me meeting Len Casper, the Chicago Cubs announcer, Jonathan Hood, one of the main guys in ESPN 1000. It's great stuff, guys. And let me just say, I don't speak to you guys very often on the air. I can't say it enough. And I make no apologies that I thank you guys every single day, because this is because of you guys. And I hope and I pray that you guys enjoy the show, you guys listen, and it makes you guys think a little bit. So please, visit the Twitter account at mmercado2333. Give us your thoughts on Facebook, like us and share us, and thechicagobeat.yolaset.com. Guys, we're going places, and that's all because of you. So for everybody here on the Chicago Beat and the beautiful ICB studios, Secret Producer Man, I am Mike Mercado. I will see you next week, only on the Chicago Beat. Later, guys.